In an Estonian high school where students are playing basketball, a boy named Joseph struggles to perform well, facing insults and bullying from his friends. When he finally has a chance to score, he panics due to their taunts and misses, leading to further bullying from his teammates. In the locker room, the other students mock his appearance. One student begins to bully him by forcing him to take a shower first. Eventually, they undress him and lock him in the girls' changing room. They stand up for him and help him get out, but the boys, particularly Anders, argue with Casper for leaving the door closed. After class, Casper speaks to Riina and Thea and learns about a party at Riina's house. He stops Thea to discuss the incident, but she expresses her disappointment in him, saying that what happened was unacceptable, and then she walks away. At home, Joseph's father, a former military man, was cleaning his gun and asked Joseph if he wanted to join him for shooting practice. However, Joseph's mother intervened, and Joseph explained that he had other commitments. When his father inquired about the school, Joseph pretended everything was fine. His father then handed him $500 and left for shooting training. Meanwhile, the boys arrived at Riina's house for the party, where Thea was in the kitchen preparing food. Suddenly startled by one of the boys, Tumas accidentally dropped a plate, causing it to break. Casper returned home feeling bored, and his grandmother warmly welcomed him, asking what he wanted for dinner. He declined, feeling unhelped by her offer, and admitted he had a disagreement with Thea. His grandmother suggested that maybe she wasn't the right girl for him, which frustrated him and led him to slam the door. Just then, he received a text from Thea inviting him to the party. His grandmother approached him again to talk, but he brushed her off, citing Thea's invitation. He apologized to her, gave her a kiss, and headed out to the party. At the party, Anders was entertaining everyone with a dance, and everyone was having a great time. Casper then invited Tumas to perform a special rap dance for the crowd. Meanwhile, Thea and Casper sneaked away to the bathroom to have some privacy, unnoticed by Anders. There, Thea apologized for their earlier argument at school. Just as they began to kiss, Anders barged in and interrupted them, reminding Thea that she had promised to give him a massage, which spoiled their moment. Anders then confronted Casper, starting an argument because Casper had let Joseph out of the girls' changing room. Thea urged Casper to return to the party, but Anders angrily followed them, insisting that he was just trying to protect Joseph. The argument escalated, with Casper challenging Anders by asking what if he had chosen to protect Joseph. This led to a full-blown fight, and as Casper left, Anders warned him that it wasn't over. The next day in class, the students were playing with coins when Casper noticed that his desk was a mess. Just then, the teacher entered and asked everyone to show their homework. He decided to sit with Joseph, but while he was picking up his pen, another student grabbed Joseph's notebook and passed it to someone in the back. The teacher demanded that they return it, but the students weren't interested in complying. As a result, she decided to punish the entire class, making them stand for the duration of the lesson until they returned the notebook, with the exception of Joseph. Despite the difficult situation, the students refused to give it back, and once class was over and the teacher left, they cornered Joseph at the door, hurling insults at him for the trouble he had caused. They pressured him to apologize instead of returning his notebook, threatening him by saying that he would get beaten up every morning. Casper was about to leave when Anders insulted him as well. Just then, the teacher returned and ordered the students to go to the principal's office one by one, starting with Paul. When Paul returned, he called Casper in next and whispered something in his ear. In the principal's office, Casper initially pretended not to know who had taken the notebook, but after Paul admitted to it, he revealed that Paul was the culprit. However, the principal dismissed his claim, insisting that Paul was the best student in the class. Despite Casper's attempts to defend himself, she refused to believe him and reminded him that this was his last chance. If he got into trouble again, he would be expelled from the school. After the meeting, he returned to class and saw Anders and Paul mocking him. Later, he received a note from Thea asking about what had happened in the principal's office, but he didn't say anything in response. That night at home, he spent a lot of time thinking about the events of the day. Anders and Tumas hurried to the classroom, with Tumas standing by the door to wait for Joseph's arrival. Everyone else was anticipating his entrance, eager to see him get kicked. However, Joseph hesitated at the door, and Tumas insisted that he wouldn't leave him alone, treating it as part of Joseph's punishment. Seeing this, Casper stood up for Joseph and confronted Tumas, demanding that he let Joseph go. In the midst of their struggle, Casper created an opening for Joseph to enter the classroom, which caused Tumas to fall to the ground just as the teacher arrived to start the lesson. Paul passed a note to Casper during class, filled with insults and a reminder that their conflict wasn't over. After class ended, the teacher instructed both Casper and Joseph to lock the door behind them. Outside, the boys were waiting, and as soon as they came out, they began to fight, separating Casper from Joseph. They kicked Joseph until he collapsed on the ground, even cutting his shoelaces. The other students mocked him as they left for their next class. Joseph then entered his next class wearing only his socks. When the teacher asked about his shoes, Joseph explained that the other boys had thrown them away. The students continued to ridicule him for his appearance, particularly for not wearing branded clothing, which led to him tearing the label off his shirt in frustration. Casper asked Joseph how he would get home, and after class, he brought Joseph his shoes, even though he himself was barefoot, demonstrating his friendship. He also offered Joseph some branded shoes to wear. Later, Casper went to see Thea, who inquired about his friendship with Joseph. He admitted that he couldn't stand by and watch Joseph being bullied mercilessly. When Casper got home, his grandmother asked where he had been. He explained the situation, but she revealed that she had received a call from the school regarding Joseph's notebook. Despite Casper's attempts to clarify, she informed him that she had already heard enough from the school administration about his misbehavior. Meanwhile, Joseph's father came into his room and asked about Casper. Joseph firmly stated that Casper hadn't done anything wrong. When his father pressed him angrily for more information, Joseph explained that the entire class was mistreating him. His father had difficulty believing that everyone in the class was involved and began to blame Joseph for not standing up for himself. He insisted that as his son, Joseph should be able to fight back, emphasizing that a man who fails to defend himself will eventually be seen as a loser. He urged Joseph to demonstrate his true character and to confront his bullies. The next day, Caspar waited for Joseph, and they walked into school together. Caspar disclosed that he had also removed the brand labels from his jacket. Upon entering the classroom, the boys were prepared and started to confront them one by one. When Anders began beating Joseph, Caspar couldn't hold back any longer and fought back fiercely, even grabbing a chair to defend his friend. Just as the altercation intensified, the teacher arrived and stepped in to break up the fight. When the teacher noticed the torn labels on Caspar's shirt, she questioned whether he had adopted Joseph's ideology. Later, Anders asked Caspar to meet him on the school playground after class, anticipating a confrontation. During their meeting, Caspar expressed his willingness to accept that he would no longer fit the mold of a normal guy. At that moment, Paul, Tumas, Teet, and Olaf arrived, restraining Joseph and locking Caspar in a dilapidated shed. They forced Caspar to watch as they took turns beating Joseph, pushing him to the brink where he struggled to breathe. Before leaving, Anders cautioned Caspar that if he persisted in defending Joseph, it would only lead to Joseph experiencing even worse treatment. Later, Joseph came to visit Caspar at his apartment complex and asked him to stop intervening on his behalf. Caspar, worried about Joseph's well-being, inquired about his plans, jokingly suggesting that Joseph could retaliate by appealing to a moral higher ground. However, Joseph believed it was better to endure the bullying until he finished school, hoping to avoid his tormentors and eventually find freedom. Meanwhile, Thea was filled with both sadness and anger as the class began to mock Joseph and Caspar in a homophobic way, insinuating that they had romantic feelings for each other. This accusation added to Caspar's stress, and when he tried to reassure Thea, she interpreted his concern for Joseph as a sign that he cared more about Joseph than about her. Feeling hurt, she decided to distance herself from him. In the meantime, Joseph suffered another beating in class. When Joseph arrives home from school, his mother, Leena, immediately notices the severe bruises on his chest and a cut on his chin. She demands to know what happened, but Joseph refuses to share any details, and his father, Margus, backs him up in his silence. Worried about her son, Leena reaches out to the school administration, leading to the entire class being held responsible for the bullying. When Lane confronts the class about the issue, Joseph, afraid of the repercussions, runs home in tears. Once he is back, Margus encourages Joseph to assert himself and teaches him a fighting technique, demonstrating a different kind of punch to help him defend himself. In an act of revenge, the class organizes a gathering at the beach and deceives both Caspar and Joseph into attending by sending them fake emails that appear to be from each other. When they arrive, the group pressures Thea to publicly tell Caspar that she is no longer his girlfriend, which infuriates him. In a fit of rage, Caspar attacks Anders, knocking him to the ground. However, during the struggle, Anders pulls out a knife. The situation quickly escalates as the group coerces Caspar into performing a sexual act on Joseph at knife point, capturing photos of the incident while keeping the weapon hidden from view. Afterward, Caspar, deeply traumatized, becomes physically ill and vomits, while the other classmates walk away, leaving him and Joseph alone on the beach. Determined to take revenge, Joseph stealthily steals 2 pistols, a sawed-off bolt-action rifle, and ammunition from his father Margus's gun safe while Margus is asleep. The next morning, Casper wakes up, embraces his grandmother, and apologizes for his past actions, receiving her forgiveness in return. Shortly after, Casper and Yusuf head to school, armed with guns. As Yusuf and Casper walked through the school, both students and teachers noticed the weapons they were carrying. When a teacher approached them to inquire about it, they simply brushed past her, with Yusuf telling her to call the police. Curly, a gothic girl from their class who had witnessed the incident at the beach, chose not to intervene and allowed them to proceed with their plan. Once inside, Yusuf and Caspar targeted the students who had bullied them. Yusuf shot Teet at close range, then aimed his weapon at Olav, killing him with a shot to the head. In an additional act of violence, Joseph shot and killed Riina, Thea's best friend. To their astonishment, Casper accidentally shot an 8th grade girl from another class while attempting to target Anders. During the chaos, Tumas tried to grab the gun from Joseph, but ended up getting shot in the abdomen instead. At the same time, Anders and Paul managed to overpower Joseph and take his rifle from him. However, Casper intervened just in time, shooting Paul in the head to save Joseph. As Anders attempted to flee, he was shot in the shoulder. Caspar tried to shoot him with a pistol that had already run out of bullets, but Joseph quickly stepped in and executed Anders himself. Afterward, Joseph approached Thea intending to kill her, but Caspar intervened and decided to spare her life. In a tense moment, Joseph and Caspar stood facing each other, each pointing a gun at their own heads. They agreed to end their lives together after counting to 3. Joseph pulled the trigger and died, leaving Caspar still standing there with his gun aimed at his head, his fate uncertain.